Tonight on Somerville Neighborhood News, we dig into the new charge Somerville homeowners are finding on their water and sewer bills. We'll take a detour down Beacon Street and starting back to school on the right foot. All that and more coming up on Somerville Neighborhood News. Hello and welcome to Somerville Neighborhood News. I'm Joe Lynch. Today is Tuesday, August 16th, 2016. Water and sewer bills have been going out from the city this month. While homeowners' usage and rates may not have changed, there's a new charge adding at least $60 to every bill. Reporter Ciara Speller looks into the story for us.
Homeowners across the city have begun receiving water and sewer bills that include a new connection charge. The new charge came as a surprise not only to residents, but to the aldermen as well. Board President Bill White and his fellow aldermen have been hearing from unhappy residents on a daily basis. The board was never made aware of the new charge that went into effect on July 1st.
The first I learned of it was when I ran into two neighbors of mine who were quite angry, asking me what was this new $60 charge in the bill, and I said I didn't know anything about it. And actually one of them gave me got the bill, and I looked at it and I said, we didn't approve this, we didn't know anything about it. And actually it was kind of frustrating to me because, we had just completed the budget process and the water and sewer department was before us for, a few hours discussing things, and they never once mentioned that this charge was going to come.
Recent water and sewer main construction in Somerville streets is linked to the fees, which Water Superintendent Mark Lahorn assures the community will be to its benefit, and is also taking the blame for not keeping the public informed.
We started the rate study a year and a half ago under a superintendent who just retired. During that transition, I stepped in and we've been working there. I've been the interim superintendent, and that's one of the things I kind of let drop. Focused on the budget, focused on the repairs and everything going on with the infrastructure. The communication piece was my lapse, and I'll take full blame for that. And so I apologize to the residents of Somerville now.
Although Lahorn apologizes for the lack of communication, he says the charges are necessary.
So the work you're seeing here is indicative of what's going to be happening and what the funding for the base charges are going to go help. Along with keeping the usage charges on the rates lower for residents, it's helping to improve the capacity of our infrastructure here. The sewer lines are all being replaced, and this is what you'll see all over Somerville over the next few years that is a part of the 15-year capital improvement plan. So these charges, while they're a new way of collecting revenue, it's really just a change in our methodology. If we did not institute the base charges now, which is an industry standard and becoming more and more popular in the industry for water and municipal utilities, we would have had to raise the volumetric or the usage charges higher. The rates would have gone up. This year we have a 5% increase in the sewer rate, and we were able to maintain the water rate level in lieu of placing these base charges in.
The new fee schedule was designed to limit homeowners' expenses and shift the burden to those who use large amounts of water.
Homeowners have the smallest charge, and we're trying to show that the new development and the larger commercial properties are taking on a lot of that burden by having the larger base charge for the larger units. The 6-inch would typically service one of the higher commercial or industrial buildings, laundromats, things of that nature, much larger buildings that you might find down on the inner belt, and new development down in Assembly Row.
Alderman White is concerned about the process used to create and implement the new charge. He plans to discuss it with the board and the commissioner.
What the ordinance says is that the Commissioner of Public Works conducts a public hearing on the proposed rates no later than May 15th, okay, and that the Commissioner sets the rate with the approval of the Mayor no later than June 1st of the same year. It's my understanding the public hearing was held after May 15th and also that the rates were set after June 1st. Again, this is what I've heard from folks, and until the Board of Aldermen really has the opportunity to go into the facts, we really don't know. But if in fact the hearing was done after May 15th and the charge and the rates set after June 1st, there's a question of whether those are valid or not. So that's one of the things I, as one alderman, will be looking into when the water superintendent comes before us to discuss this rate.
For Somerville Neighborhood News, I'm Ciara Speller.
The first opportunity the Board of Aldermen will have to discuss the new charge is at their upcoming meeting on Thursday, August 25th. In the last 5 years, almost 700 Somerville rental units have been converted to condominiums. Tenant protections in the city's condo conversion ordinance haven't always been enforced. The city solicitor has reviewed the ordinance and wants enforcement to begin. The usually quiet condominium review board meeting was standing room only last week when owners and renters weighed in at a public meeting. The board has not yet scheduled a vote on the enforcement question. Somerville Neighborhood News will follow the story and bring you more on the impact condominium conversions are having on the availability and affordability of rental units this fall. Make sure your voice is heard. The Massachusetts state primary is coming up on Thursday, September 8th. The deadline to register or change party affiliation is Friday, August 19th at 5 p.m. There are several primary matchups for Somerville voters this year. Incumbent State Senator Patricia Jalen faces challenger Cambridge City Councilor Leland Chung, and State Representative Tim Toomey is being challenged by attorney Mike Conley. You can watch candidates' debates for both of these races by checking the Scat TV schedule at scatvsomerville.org. In addition, Middlesex County Sheriff Peter Katujian is in a primary race with Barry Kelleher, a corrections officer from Wilmington. Remember, the deadline to register or change your party affiliation is Friday, August 19th at 5 p.m. You can register by visiting the election department at City Hall, having the elections department mail you an application, or by going to registertovotema.com. The deadline to register for the November 8th general election is October 19th at 8 p.m. So register now and don't miss the deadline. Now let's see what's coming up in this week's Somerville Journal.
Hi, I'm Somerville Journal editor Erin Tiernan. This week at the paper, we'll be digging into how condo conversions might be impacting housing needs in the city, take a look at what it's like to bike around Somerville, and we'll have full coverage from Ignite Festival in Union Square. You can find us at somerville.wickedlocal.com, follow us on Twitter at VilleJournal, or you can reach me at 617-629-3385 or at etiernan@wickedlocal.com.
The Beacon Street Reconstruction Project is a 2-year, $10 million collaboration between the Massachusetts Department of Transportation and the City of Somerville. In June, Somerville Neighborhood News Director Heather Avison sat down with Director of Transportation and Infrastructure Brad Rawson. They spent some time discussing this transformative project.
A little bit like the Green Line, residents and elected officials, business advocacy groups have been working towards a solution for Beacon Street since the late 90s, I heard. It's incredible. We received important federal funding administered by the Boston Region Metropolitan Planning Organization several years ago, and that project is starting construction. It just started a few weeks ago, in fact. And so it is going to be a really inclusive project that improves accessibility and safety, no matter how you're getting around Beacon Street, whether you live, do business, or just passing through the area. If you're a pedestrian, improved accessible crosswalks, curb ramps, high quality sidewalks, and street lighting. Of course, as well as new traffic signals that will allow you to cross back and forth across the street safely in an accessible fashion. Obviously, if you're a bicyclist, it's going to be really an upgrade on the existing conditions. Beacon Street is the most important bicycle commuting corridor in Metro Boston. Wow. When we were doing our environmental processes for Beacon Street several years ago, we collected data that showed at the peak morning commute rush hour and the peak evening commute rush hour, you could stand there on the sidewalk and count 300 bicyclists going by in a single hour. Wow. We've been on site now this spring repeating some of those counts as the construction gets underway, and those numbers we think have doubled. So it's probably between 500 and 600 bicyclists per hour. It's really staggering when you think about how many people who live in the western part of Somerville, the northern part of Cambridge, the eastern part of Arlington are going to job centers around Union Square, East Cambridge, and Kendall Square, and Beacon Street provides a really important conduit for that travel mode. And guess what? Any of those folks, they could have, many of them will have the choice to drive if they want to, so allowing for a safe and accessible bicycle route is a bit of a traffic congestion reduction measure as well. But let me also talk about traffic operations, new traffic signals, new roadway lighting. The roadway itself, Folks will remember how difficult passage was, again, no matter how you were getting around Beacon Street just last year. And part of the reason was that the foundation, the sub-base of Beacon Street had deteriorated substantially. Now, we've been doing underground utility work there for a while. There was a really important stormwater mitigation project that was done about 3-4 years ago, but it doesn't change the fact that the roadway essentially wasn't constructed the right way. The foundations of the roadway needed to be replaced. You couldn't just put a little skim coat of asphalt on there the way we did last fall for an emergency kind of repave and expect that that's going to stand the test of time. So the work that residents will see happening this summer and into this fall is essentially rebuilding the roadway from the ground up, from its sub-base materials and its drainage structures all the way to its curbing, its crosswalks, and ultimately the asphalt surface to make sure.
And how far down do you have to go to do that? Where does that base start?
Yeah, generally about 2 feet down.
Okay, yeah.
And again, keep in mind there are big sewer trunk lines underneath there, 10 feet down, 8 feet down. There's gas mains, there's water lines, all sorts of stuff. When you think about the cross-section of utilities and infrastructure under the average street or sidewalk that we all take for granted in our day-to-day life, it's a fascinating puzzle. And
it kind of reminds me of the How Things Work books, with the cutaway of
That's exactly
things
right.
we don't think about. It's like, yeah, I'm walking down the street and underneath you is a whole nother world.
That's right, Heather.
And
so a big part of our work as public servants, as city planners, as engineers, is to actually help people understand how complex the urban environment is, to take pride in it, to be curious about it.
Reporter Jeanette Orihel has this report on how things are going.
As fall fast approaches, construction on Beacon Street is quickly picking up. The Beacon Street Reconstruction project continues along the first portion of the roadway from Roseland Street to Park Street. As with any major road construction, this one brings community concerns. Last week, Ward 2 Alderman Marianne Houston, the Mayor's Office of Strategic Planning and Community Development, as well as Mass DOT and Beacon Street project staff, hosted a public meeting to update the community and get feedback from residents.
Some of the issues that were raised and which were addressed had to do with dust. We know it's been really dusty lately because there's been no rain. So, they explained how they have a water truck on site, that they use calcium chloride, that they drop that after they've watered down to keep the dust down.
Project staff has committed to spraying water down on sites more often during dry periods, but with the past few rainy days in the city, those concerns have been taken care of, at least temporarily, and other issues come with almost every urban construction project.
Many of my neighbors have reported that they have rats in their yard, and we have had the city come and confirm that yes, that's true, but now they're saying that we're responsible for taking care of the rodent problem, and we all feel that we didn't cause this problem, the digging caused this problem, and the city should be kicking in whatever it takes to resolve that problem for us.
The rodent reports have been heard and noticed, and the city has been holding the contractor accountable for resolving the issues for residents like Doyle as well as her neighbors.
A couple of properties have noticed some rodent issues, but the contractor has committed to increased rodent control in the area as well, and to keep that going throughout the project.
As the project moves along through the fall, Alderman Houston plans to hold another community meeting to give residents more updates as well as to hear of any new concerns. Residents who have been enduring construction in front of their houses for the past few weeks can now expect to see things starting to take shape.
The section from Roseland Street up until Sacramento, the roadway will be paved, and then after that they will do some sidewalk construction on one side, and after that sidewalk construction on the other. And that there will be roadway paving in September that will go from Sacramento Street to Park Street, and then excavation and roadway paving from Park Street to Calvin Street. So that before the snow comes, that all that section from Roseland Street to Calvin Street would have been excavated, the utility work done and paved, and some of the sidewalks put in, although not all. So that's really good news.
As one of the busiest connectors in Somerville, Beacon Street will feature improvements in accessibility and safety. Pedestrians will now be able to enjoy high-quality sidewalks as well as improved and accessible crosswalks with new traffic signals that would allow individuals to cross the street safely. Improvements will also be made to curb ramps as well as street lighting.
next spring, they'll start up again, and they'll do the last section of roadway, which will be from Calvin on up to Inman Square. Dickinson Street, actually, not quite into Inman Square. And then they will start doing those sidewalks as well. So by September 2017, we should see the completion of the project.
And perhaps one of the most anticipated aspects of the project is the upgrade of bike lanes along the roadway. According to Somerville's semi-annual bike and pedestrian counts, Beacon Street is the most heavily used bicycle commuting corridor in Metro Boston, with over 500 bikers during morning and afternoon rush hour.
The League of American Bicyclists ranked Somerville number 3 in the country and number 1 in the region for the percentage of bike commuters. The installations of dedicated bike lanes will increase traffic safety for all road users. MassDOT hopes to use the Beacon Street bike lane design as a model for other projects going forward. For Somerville Neighborhood News, I'm Jeanette Orihed.
You can find current information and detours by visiting the Detours and Construction Updates link at somervillema.gov. It's hard to believe, but the first day of school is just 2 weeks away. Teachers are preparing lesson plans, and kids are enjoying the last few days of summer freedom. Setting up healthy back-to-school routines helps kids succeed during the year. Reporter Dranusha Jasufi sat down with Cambridge Health Alliance pediatrician Dr. Ciara Speller and brings us these tips for a healthy and low-stress return to the school year.
I think it's one of the most important pieces of returning to school is getting the whole family back on a good schedule where everyone's eating breakfast in the morning. You know, if your schedule doesn't allow for it, to eat breakfast sitting down, taking something like a yogurt and a piece of fruit with you so that you eat something prior to starting school. And in addition to with dinner time, I know people are busy, but if there's 15 minutes where the whole family can sit down together, eat a nice healthy meal, talk about the day, I think that's one of the most important pieces of getting back to school.
Getting back to a regular school schedule is another health factor in school success.
Bedtime, another thing that comes up. Over the summer, a lot of kids are staying up later, sleeping in. That's not going to work for the school schedule. So getting, everyone in the house, turning off the media at a certain time of night, maybe an hour before bedtime, getting into a routine, a rhythm prior to going to bed, whether it be brushing your teeth and then reading a book, no TV with sleeping. A lot of kids think it helps to fall asleep to TV, and it actually doesn't really help in terms of getting good night's sleep. And we notice, kids who have a good routine are eating breakfast and getting a good night's sleep, that they tend to do better in school. They're concentrating better. They tend to have less complaints of headaches and belly aches. And they also, just in general are physically and emotionally, healthier.
Dr. Canali suggests reviewing transportation safety with your child before the school year begins.
Really considering a lot of the safety precautions ahead of time is very important. So for example, if your kid's going to be walking to school, see if there's other kids in the neighborhood or another grown-up or yourself that can walk the kids to school. Make sure they're wearing brightly colored clothes so they're visible to people driving their cars, and make sure they know the designated spaces or the crosswalks to get safely across the street. I think that is incredibly important. In terms of bus transportation, a lot of kids don't think about some of the safety components of it. So making sure that your child knows where the bus stop is, to make sure that they can see the eyes of the bus driver and the bus driver can then see them. And then, as they're waiting for the bus, making sure that they stay still as the bus comes to a complete stop, and then have them proceed to get onto the bus.
Review required vaccinations before heading off to school.
Usually if kids keep up with their yearly health physicals, then we're able to take care of those vaccinations during those visits. Examples would be getting the measles, mumps, rubella, and the chickenpox vaccine prior to going into preschool or at 4 years of age. At that same age, kids also need an updated booster shot of their diphtheria, tetanus, pertussis, as well as their polio.
Routine vaccinations continue throughout the school years. Obtaining yearly physicals for the children is important in keeping them up to date with all the required vaccinations. And don't forget sports physicals if your child plans to participate in a school sport.
We also delve into, risks in terms of family history or symptoms that they're having that could put them in harm's way playing sports. And we want to make sure we identify that ahead of time prior to having them participate, even in training over the summer.
Asthma and allergies often require medication be available during the school day. Review these with your pediatrician, child, and the school health office.
Depending on a child's age, kids can self-administer the EpiPen. That being said, it should be kept in the nurse's office. The nurse should be aware of it. The nurse should know how to administer the EpiPen. But in certain situations, it might be up to the student to have to do it. So we tell parents to make sure they have one EpiPen that either stays at home or travels with the kid, and one EpiPen that stays in the nurse's office.
Parents should also monitor their children for signs of depression and anxiety.
We do see a fair amount of depression, anxiety in some of our kids, and a lot of them relate to their social interactions. And so really being able to be a sounding board for your child, to hear their concerns, to validate their feelings, and to offer them some advice on how to deal with these things is really important.
For Somerville Neighborhood News, I'm Janusha Yusufi.
For more health information from the Somerville Public Schools, visit somerville.k12.ma.us. That's our newscast for tonight. We'll be back on August 30th at 7 p.m. on Channel 3. Check out all our news stories at somervilleneighborhoodnews.org. Somerville Neighborhood News is a community service production of SCAT TV. We invite you to get involved. Visit our Facebook page, SCATVSNN, to comment. Tweet us at SCATVSNN. Call us at 617-628-8826 or email us at news@scatvsomerville.org. I'm Joe Lynch, wishing you a happy, healthy, and safe summer season. Thanks for joining us. See you around the neighborhood.